Welcome back to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and today we're diving into a topic that's become critical for European enterprises: Fractional AI-led architecture, EU AI Act compliance, and enterprise readiness heading into 2026. Sam, thanks for joining me.
Great to be here, Alex. This is actually a perfect time to talk about this because the regulatory landscape is shifting fast, and a lot of organizations are suddenly realizing they're not ready.
Absolutely. So let's set the stage. CAPGEMINized 2025 research shows that 73% of European enterprises are now prioritizing AI governance and compliance over pure experimentation. That's a massive mindset shift. But here's the problem. Only 31% have governance frameworks that actually meet regulatory standards. What's driving this gap?
It comes down to resources and expertise, honestly. You've got organizations that built AI programs around data scientists and engineers, but governance requires a different skill set entirely. You need someone who understands both the technical side of AI systems and the legal and regulatory landscape. That's rare, and it's expensive to hire full-time.
So that's where the fractional model comes in. Before we get too deep, for listeners who might not be familiar, what exactly is a fractional AI lead architect, and how does it differ from, say, hiring a traditional consultant?
Great question. A traditional consultant comes in, does an assessment, writes a report, and leaves. A fractional AI lead architect is different. They embed themselves in your organization. They're hands-on. They design governance frameworks. They map out AI workflows. They establish compliance documentation. They're not just advising. They're architecting solutions that stick around.
That's a crucial distinction. And economically, the fractional model makes a lot of sense, too. A full-time chief AI officer in Europe costs, what, $150,000 to $300,000 annually?
Exactly. Plus benefits, overhead, long-term commitment. A fractional AI lead architect delivers similar strategic oversight at 30 to 50% of that cost, and you're not locked into permanent headcount. You can scale the engagement up during critical phases and down when you're in maintenance mode.
That flexibility is huge, especially for mid-market organizations juggling multiple AI initiatives. Now, let's talk about the regulatory pressure. The EU AI Act is moving from concept to enforcement pretty quickly. What's the real compliance burden that enterprises are facing right now?
The EU AI Act created a risk-based classification system, and anything classified as high risk now requires mandatory compliance assessments, detailed documentation, and ongoing monitoring. If you're deploying AI chatbots for business, recommendation engines, or autonomous AI agents, those are often high risk. You can't just build and deploy anymore.
And the data backs that up. Deloitte's AI Risk and Governance report found that 58% of European enterprises report inadequate resources to implement governance frameworks. That's a majority, Sam. How do organizations even start tackling that?
They need to prioritize ruthlessly. Start by mapping what AI systems you actually have deployed or in development. Which ones are high risk? Which ones interact with sensitive data or make decisions that affect people? Then assess your current governance maturity. Do you have documentation, audit trails, risk registers? Most don't, and that's the foundation you need.
So the fractional AI lead architect role becomes critical in that assessment and build-out phase. They come in with a template, essentially. They understand what EU AI Act compliance looks like, and they adapt it to your organization's context.
Exactly. And there's a time element here, too. Capgemini calls 2026 the year of truth for AI, the moment when enterprises have to prove they've got concrete business value and regulatory compliance simultaneously. Organizations that establish governance and compliance structures in 2026 will capture 40% more business value from AI investments than those still operating in fragmented ways.
That's a significant ROI gap. So waiting isn't a strategy, it's a liability. What does a fractional AI lead architect actually do on day one? Walk me through the engagement.
They'd typically start with an AI readiness assessment, mapping your current systems, identifying capability gaps, and establishing a compliance baseline. Then they design the governance framework aligned with EU AI Act requirements. They'd establish what we call an AI Center of Excellence, a coordinating body that brings together strategy, risk, technical teams.
An AI Center of Excellence. That's a formal structure, not just a meeting that happens sometimes?
Correct. It's usually a cross-functional team with representatives from legal, compliance, data science, product, and business. The fractional architect chairs and designs how that team operates, who reports to whom, what decisions it owns, and how it scales as you deploy more AI systems.
And they'd also establish guardrails for things like generative AI and chatbots. I imagine that's a hot topic right now.
Absolutely. Generative AI is everywhere. Co-pilots, chatbots, summarization tools. But organizations often don't have policies around data privacy, hallucination risk, output validation, or liability. A fractional architect defines those guardrails explicitly. Who owns accountability if a chatbot makes a mistake? What's the process for removing personal data from training sets? These aren't edge cases anymore. They're core governance questions.
You mentioned agentic workflows earlier. That's another area where governance gets complex. Can you unpack that a bit?
Agentic workflows are where AI systems operate semi-autonomously, making decisions and taking actions without human review on every step. They're powerful. They automate procurement approvals, customer support routing, compliance checks. But they're also high risk in the EU AI Act framework because they can make decisions affecting people without transparency.
So you need to architect those workflows in a way that's compliant from the start.
Exactly. You need audit trails, human oversight checkpoints, documented logic for decisions, and the ability to explain why the agent made a choice. A fractional AI lead architect designs those workflows with compliance baked in, not bolted on afterward.
That's a fundamental difference. Building compliance architecture versus retrofitting it. And I imagine that changes timelines and costs significantly.
Dramatically. If you build compliant architecture from the start, you deploy faster and with higher confidence. If you're retrofitting governance to systems already in production, you're risking shutdowns, reimplementation, and legal exposure.
So, from an enterprise perspective, what should the first step actually be? How do you know if you need a fractional AI lead architect engagement?
Ask yourself a few questions. Do you have documented AI governance? Do you have a compliance roadmap for EU AI Act? Can you explain the risk profile of every AI system in production? Can you demonstrate human oversight and transparency for high-risk systems? If you're answering no or unsure to more than one of those, you likely need fractional architecture support.
That's a good diagnostic framework. And the urgency is real. We're moving into 2026, enforcement is accelerating, and organizations that wait are putting themselves at competitive and legal disadvantage.
Exactly. And the fractional model means you can start now without massive financial commitment. You can test the model, see results, and scale if it works. That's a much lower risk entry point than hiring a full-time chief AI officer.
Well put. Sam, any final thoughts for organizations listening who are realizing they might be behind on this?
Start with an honest assessment. Bring in a fractional architect for 4 to 8 weeks to map your current state and establish a roadmap. It's investment in clarity, which leads to faster execution and lower risk. Don't let 2026 surprise you.
Excellent advice. Listeners, this is a critical moment for European enterprises. AI governance isn't a nice-to-have anymore. It's the foundation for sustainable AI adoption. For a deeper dive into fractional AI lead architecture, EU AI Act compliance strategies, and building an AI center of excellence, head over to EtherLink AI and find the full article. Sam, thanks for your insights today.
Thanks, Alex. Great conversation. Thanks to all our listeners. Stay compliant and happy building.
You've been listening to EtherLink AI Insights. I'm Alex, and we'll see you next time.